thank God.
He has gills, webbed feet, and a face that looks like it's been sunburned for a century. People only call him the Mariner, which is fine because names are for places that don't float. The movie opens on a world that's become one big ocean after the polar ice caps melted and the cities drowned. And the Mariner drifts through it on a strange hybrid trimaran that he somehow kept running. He's a loner by habit, suspicious of others, good with machines, and weirdly adapted to the water. You get the sense he'd rather have an afternoon with a busted-out engine than a conversation with anyone. Early on we learn a few things about him. He's not exactly human in the normal way. He can breathe underwater, he can stay submerged for a long time, and he's tough as old rope. He scavenges at sea, picking through derelict ships for fuel, tools, and anything useful. Into this world of floating junk and sea-strewn survival hobbles a small community called an atoll, a ramshackle ring of shelters and trade, where people have tried to recreate old society. They survive by salvaging and trading, and they cling to the idea of civilization the way people cling to a rope ladder when the sea is angry. Our main emotional anchor comes in the form of a little girl named Enola, who lives on the atoll with her guardian Helen, a tough but kind woman. Enola has the only clue anyone believes might lead to the myth at the center of every conversation in Waterworld: Dryland. It's the idea that somewhere beneath the endless blue there's still a hill, a shore, a place you can put your feet on dirt. Tattooed on Enola's back is a map nobody can fully read, but enough that scavengers and criminals believe it's worth the trouble. The atollers treat the map like a fairy tale and a curse at the same time, because such stories draw the wrong kind of attention. And who shows up to ruin their cautious peace? The Smokers, a gang of marauders who've rebuilt the idea of a biker gang for the high seas. They live on a massive, low-slung tanker and ride jet skis like Harleys. And their leader, Deacon, is a feral, charismatic villain who wants whatever will buy him power. Deacon is nasty and theatrical. He enjoys threats and spectacle. And he's convinced that the map on Enola's back will lead him to Dryland so he can claim empire over the last real estate on Earth. When the Smokers attack the atoll, everything goes sideways. Fires blow through the wooden structures, people scatter, and in the smoke and chaos the Mariner, who had been nearby doing a bit of looting from a wreck, sees Helen and Enola running for their lives. He's reluctant at first. He's a solo operator and help means tying yourself to other people's problems. But he swoops in with his trimaran. The girl ends up on his boat, and that's the inciting relationship. A gruff water sailor, a brave little girl with a map on her back, and a woman who won't sit idly by while fleeing. What follows is classic odd couple road movie in the sea. The Mariner, Helen, and Enola form an uneasy trio. Helen is practical and guarded but capable of affection. Enola is wide-eyed and determined. The Mariner is taciturn and reluctant to let anyone in but gradually shows hints of a soft spot. They travel, trying to stay ahead of the Smokers, and they run into every weird remnant of the old world you'd expect. Floating barges, sunken cities visible from the surface like ghostly skylines, and enclaves of people who have adapted in strange ways to the endless ocean. There's a complicated sequence where the Mariner gets captured by the Smokers. It's a memorable turn because instead of a typical capture and interrogation scene, he ends up being recruited by Deacon to work on the Smokers' boat. Deacon sees the Mariner's skills as useful. The Mariner sees a chance to get back to Enola and Helen and maybe, if luck favors him, a way to get off the radar. He plays both sides with the kind of poker face only someone who's spent years in salt spray can keep. This is also where we get a closer look at the Smokers' culture. It's equal parts post-apocalyptic punk and maritime brutality, and they have a fierce loyalty to the flame of power Deacon promises. While with the Smokers, the Mariner learns more about Deacon's plans. Deacon worships the idea of Dryland as a ticket to dominance. He's willing to enslave, burn, and betray to get there. Helen and Enola's map becomes a prize everyone wants to control, and the
St. Joe were close. After centuries,
stakes move from survival to a race that everyone agrees has one winner. Whoever controls Dryland controls the future. The Mariner's forced proximity to the Smokers lets him pick pockets, learn routes, and eventually pull off a quiet, dangerous rescue. He's no saint, his motivations are messy. Sometimes he helps because it's the best way to survive, not because of a hero code. But that grayness makes him more interesting. He's a man shaped by loss and compromise. There's a big action set piece when the Smokers and the Atollers collide. The atoll gets destroyed in the crossfire, which is brutal and finally forces Helen and the other survivors to accept that there's no going back. The Mariner, who has kept to himself for so long, finally admits he cares when he puts himself at real risk to protect Enola. The notion of family becomes redefined, not by blood or law, but by whether you stand in the ocean with someone when the waves are trying to take everything. As they continue, The trio meets other survivors and witnesses small communities trying to build something resembling normal life. These moments are crucial because they show different visions of humanity's survival. Some people hoard power, some try to recreate old institutions, and some accept that you've got to be flexible, trading ethics for practicality, and vice versa. Helen represents pragmatic hope. Enola represents the dream. She clings to the map and the possibility of Dryland like a talisman. The Mariner represents adaptability, the cold and often lonely pragmatism that still can surprise you with flashes of decency. Eventually, after betrayals and double crosses, the story swings toward its climax. Enola's map actually leads to a location, and it's not just a rumor. The trio, along with a ragtag band including a few new friends and the remnants of the Atollers, head toward a place that might be Dryland. The smokers, of course, are in hot pursuit, and Deacon grows more desperate, resorting to bigger, brash maneuvers and nastier hits. The film builds to a final confrontation that's equal parts sea battle and personal showdown. It's noisy, it's explosive, and it's got jet ski chases that look like motorcycles in a flooded junkyard, which is to say it's ridiculous in the best way. In the big emotional beat, the Mariner makes choices that show how far he's come. He's willing to fight, sacrifice, and even trust people in ways he wouldn't at the beginning. There's also a moral reckoning for Helen and Enola. They've had to grow up fast, and the promise of Dryland is both a salvation and a test. When Dryland's location finally reveals itself, not as some sprawling metropolis but as a patch of earth rising like a stubborn thumb from the sea, the film pulls its punches with emotion. It's not a utopia. It's a place with work and danger and the responsibility of being first to step onto dry soil in a long time. That grounding makes the ending feel earned instead of magical. Deacon doesn't go gently. The final confrontations between him and the Mariner are personal as well as strategic. Deacon's tyranny is exposed for what it was. A hunger for control that could never be satisfied. The Mariner, whose humanity was always in half-reveal, proves he's more than a scavenger. He risks himself for Enola and Helen in a way that suggests being alone was never his first choice. He chose it. The little girl's map, which once had everybody arguing and murdering over ink on skin, turns into a symbol of hope that cannot be weaponized easily. People see a future, and everyone's choices ripple forward. Waterworld doesn't wrap with a neat, postcard finish. The film leans into the bittersweet. Dryland is discovered, people get a chance to stop surviving and start rebuilding, but it isn't heaven. The Mariner, whose life was the sea, faces a real choice: be part of a community on land or retreat to the ocean he knows best. Without spoiling every turn, suffice to say the end honors the Mariner's character. He's always been a loner who does the right thing in a rough way. The relationships he built, with Helen's courage and Enola's faith, have changed him. You sense that the world may be better because of those small, human shifts, even if he doesn't settle down with a porch swing. There are a few recurring themes that make Waterworld stick in your head even after the jet skis stop roaring. One is the idea that survival isn't the same as living. People who survive by violence often forget how to hope. People who hope can inspire survival without cold cruelty. Another theme is adaptation. The Mariner is literally adapted to his environment, while the human survivors must adapt socially, emotionally, and ethically. The film also has moments of almost childlike wonder. Enola's belief in Dryland is simple and pure, and it balances that against the harshness of the smokers and the tricky morality of scavengers. And yes, the movie has fun with world building. The costumes, the vehicles, the idea that cars now function like floating wrecks, the smokers' punk aesthetic, it's all deliberately over the top, and if you've ever wanted to see Dennis Hopper chewing scenery as a hydrophobic warlord, this is your moment. Kevin Costner plays the Mariner with a laconic, sun-leathered stoicism that sometimes borders on cartoonish. But it works because the world needs someone half-mythic, half-man of action. Helen grounds him, Enola humanizes him, and the smokers give him a villain to kick around. If you watch it for action, there's plenty. Boat battles, chases, hand-to-hand conflict on decks slick with salt, and explosions that remind you this is a big-budget 1990s summer spectacle. If you watch it for character, the slow thaw of the Mariner's defenses is satisfying. If you watch it for setting, the endless blue and creaking ruins of civilization are haunting. The film doesn't always stick the landing for everyone. Some plot contrivances and a couple of pacing issues make it messy, but overall it's earnest in its ambitions, and that earnestness can be oddly charming.